yesterday was El-Quds Day, right? So in Arabic, the way you say Jerusalem is Al-Qudus. In Jerusalem, and in Gaza and Lebanon, and this started in Iran, they made a day to celebrate Jerusalem. And I was just talking to you about how the Israelis are treating, Christians during Easter, but this was started, I think, in 1980, around 1980, in Iran as a counter protest, because the Israelis, when they illegally annexed Jerusalem, made their own Jerusalem Day, and so the response to that from Iran was Al-Quds Day, and this was picked up, right? So it's celebrated in Lebanon. It's celebrated all over the world, actually. You have rallies and parades, and it's just a way to show support for the Palestinians, right? You have these rallies and parades that take place in countless cities every single year. And usually it takes place on the last Friday of Ramadan, I believe. During Al-Quds Day yesterday, I think Nasrallah gave a speech on the eve, right? So I think it might have been Thursday evening. He gave a speech, and I wanted to kind of give you just some quick, notes and points from what he said, right? Because it was rather insightful. It was his thoughts on the recent situation and landscape in the Middle East, and it kind of it kind of relates to everything that I've been telling you after covering, the Iran and Saudi peace deal, the Yemen and Saudi, the Syrian and Saudi reconciliation efforts that are ongoing now, right? Why are all these things related? Well, it's very simple. You see, when the Chinese got the Saudis and the Iranians to sit down and make a peace deal, this rapprochement allowed for the Saudis to go and start making peace with the Houthis. You had the Saudi ambassador to Yemen in Sana'a, right? And you had the Syrian foreign minister visiting Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. I mean, if you told me this a month ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have told you it's too good to be true, but it is true. And these reconciliation efforts are taking place, this rapprochement. And it's because the Chinese, by mediating this peace deal, have created a political climate where this is possible. It's okay now, right? And no, it's not because Assad and the Houthis are Iran-backed, which is what every Western media outlet and pseudo-academic says. This is too lame of a conclusion. It's not because of that. But they are, of course, these things are related, and that peace deal certainly related to it. It's really funny because I was trying to tell you that, the resistance fired back at the Israelis with these rockets all at the same time, which you've never seen before, right? You had Syria firing rockets, Gaza, so Hamas firing rockets, and also South Lebanon firing rockets, which is Hezbollah's turf, right? When we talk about South Lebanon, we're talking about Hezbollah, okay, in a nutshell. It's funny because the Israelis, instead of going to war with Lebanon, which they cannot handle, and they were so humiliated in 2006 that they have never tried to do it since. They said that it was Hamas operating inside of Lebanon. And so, of course, they went and they struck Lebanon. They did, just to save face. Netanyahu, he sent some of his errand boys to drop some bombs. And he went on TV and started telling people that, he had struck critical infrastructure belonging to Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, let me be honest with you. I don't know whether it was Hamas or Hezbollah that fired the rockets, and I really don't care, because the thing is here, you have to understand this is one block that we are talking about. That's the whole point, that it doesn't matter who it was. It's one unified front. That is the point. And it's something you've never seen before. You have never seen something like this before. Because the Israelis are beating on worshippers, Muslim worshippers in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? And so usually Gaza would respond, and then the Israelis would go and bomb the crap out of Gaza. This time, it was Gaza, Syria, and Lebanon that responded with rockets. You've never seen this before. The Israelis basically are trying to handle multiple fronts at the same time, right? And Netanyahu is suffering from internal strife. So every single week, you've got Israelis coming out and protesting against his government's plans for the judiciary. Not much justice you'll find there or laws. He's got internal strife, and he's got to worry about the Palestinian factions in the West Bank, like Jeannie Martyr's brigade, or whether we're talking about my point here is that you have these factions in the West Bank working alongside Hamas in Gaza, which you wouldn't have seen before, right? So we're talking about Islamic Jihad, we're talking about PIJ, we're talking about Jeannie Martyr's brigade, we're talking about Hamas, and the Young Lions. You have all of these factions working as one, so he's got to worry about that. So when I say internal, it's inside Israel, right? Inside occupied Palestine. The Israelis they're trying to deal with a multi-front issue now, right? They're taking hits from all sides. And just going back to my point here is that when Netanyahu sent some planes to bomb South Lebanon, he went on TV and said, we've hit critical infrastructure belonging to Hamas and Hezbollah. And I just wanted to show you, what actually happened, okay?
طلع نتنياهو عمل أكاذيب.
So he's saying Netanyahu went on TV and he started lying, okay? I'll interpret for you.
هلا الإسرائيليين ردوا عليه، لكن نحن كمان معنيين نرد عليه. أهم كذبة قال نتنياهو أنه هم قاموا بقصف بنية تحتية.
Right, so the biggest lie that Netanyahu told is that he hit the critical infrastructure
في جنوب لبنان
in South
لحزب
Lebanon,
الله ولحركة حماس.
in South Lebanon belonging to Hamas and Hezbollah.
ما هذا كذب واضح.
This is a clear
كل
lie.
وسائل الإعلام طلعت صورت وزارت الأمن.
This is a blatant lie because all of the media went out and they filmed what was actually hit.
الأماكن اللي انقصفت هي أماكن مفتوحة، بعضها بساتين موز، بعضها تبع ري المي.
Which turned out to be a bunch of banana groves and water irrigation systems. I mean, the guy bombed some banana groves, and then he's turning around trying to save face with the Israeli population, saying, no, we hit them, we got them good.
وأماكن مفتوحة، لا في بنية تحتية هونيك لحزب الله قصفت ولا في.
So basically Netanyahu hit a bunch of, open fields, a bunch of banana groves, and there's no infrastructure there. But he has to go and lie and try to save face, of course, right? It's actually funny because they started reporting on this I saw it in ABC and Times of Israel also. This was so funny. So Nasrallah said that the Israelis hit banana groves and a water irrigation channel. There was no immediate comment from Israel. I doubt you'll be hearing back. I really doubt it. Let me tell you something, man. The reason that I know Nasrallah is telling the truth is not just because there's no comment from the Israelis. The reason he's telling the truth is that if the Israelis had actually hit real infrastructure belonging to Hezbollah or Lebanon as a whole, as a country, right? So civilian infrastructure. And again, remember, Hezbollah is not only a militant wing, they're a political party, right? So, and they do a bunch of social stuff. So it's not just about, I'm talking about all kinds of infrastructure, any kind. If the Israelis had actually hit something like that, Hezbollah would have gone to war with them. The Israelis cannot handle the current situation, never mind an all-out war with Lebanon or with Hezbollah, to be exact. They can't handle it. To be fair, Lebanon can't handle it either right now with the economic situation. Man, people are suffering. They're really suffering. But if it came down to it, Hezbollah, they're gonna set them straight. And I know this because I was next door. I was 2 hours away from Beirut, and I was in Damascus. I was in Damascus during the 2006 war. And there, it was very tense. I remember it being very tense. Every single day, everyone was glued to the TV because we were watching the latest updates, what's happening next door in Lebanon. And there was a worry that Syria would be drawn into the war, and just seeing what they were doing to Beirut. And it was upsetting. It was extremely upsetting. As usual, the Israelis just completely bombing bombing helpless civilians and civilian infrastructure. How brave. Wow. Is that, is a dam that blocks water. A dam or generates power. That's going to put up a fight to an F-16. What's brave about bombing a dam? You're just hurting civilians, and you're doing that. Meanwhile, Hezbollah, suddenly they're crawling out of these tunnels and they have all this advanced technology. That's in 2006. The Israelis, they had not imagined that Hezbollah had such advanced technology in 2006. Can you imagine what they have now in 2023? Look at how Iran, by giving drones to Russia, has sent the West into a fury, right? And it has made them furious. And look at how Iran changed the reality on the battlefield in Yemen by giving drones to the Houthi, right? When they struck Aramco, when the Yemenis struck the Saudi oil company, while the Saudis are trying to trying to please everyone and host the Formula One races, the Saudis were not prepared for that. That was not only dangerous, it was also extremely embarrassing and upsetting. And then they struck the UAE. Remember, these countries, Saudi and UAE, have never had to feel or taste the war that they were waging on Yemen. And so Iran, by transferring this technology and giving them moral and political support, changed the reality on the battlefield. Hezbollah it receives way, way, way more support than the Yemenis or the Russians from Iran. Okay? That's no secret. That doesn't mean they're controlled by Iran. Like there's a Khamenei holding, these puppet strings on Nasrallah. That's ridiculous. That's an infantile, pathetic thinking that they try to poison your mind with in the West. Instead of telling you truths and explaining things to you, they try to dumb it down and make it, it's Iran. That's how I know Nasrallah is telling the truth, because if the Israelis had actually hit anything meaningful, meaning not banana groves, there would have been a response in a war. And Netanyahu, the last thing on his goddamn mind now is to go to war with Lebanon. His career will be over, let's put it mildly. And I think it's going to, that's really an understatement. There are much more dire consequences.
لأنه أمس كمان بنص الليل يعني خلصنا الإحياء على الفجر والشباب بعتوا لي إنه في مقابلة لنتنياهو قاعد. So he's saying, people told him there was an interview that Netanyahu had given. عم بيهدد ويتوعد ومدري شو.
And he's sitting there and he's running his mouth and he's making threats and all of that.
وعم بيهددني بالاسم.
And so he was threatening Nasrallah by name, right? He was calling him out by name and threatening him by name.
إذا مش شايف حشوف طيب بنشوف. هلا هو بلش هيك. هو عم.
He's saying, okay, well, you started this, right?
بيقول منشوف. ونحن أيضا في المقاومة في لبنان منقول منشوف.
So Nasrallah is saying, Netanyahu is saying, you're going to see. In Lebanon, in the resistance, we also say, you're going to see. You'll find out.
والأيام بيننا.
Right? So basically, it's just a matter of days, right?
والأيام بيننا.
If you've ever seen or read anything about the 2006 war, what was it, 33 days, something like that? It was July, August 2006, yeah? Two things. The Israelis, they decimated civilian infrastructure, which, this goes without saying, these are war crimes, yes? And they killed some UN personnel in UNIFIL, which is the mission my parents served in, so, nothing new there. We know that they target the UN, of course. The Israelis like doing that, right? And it's funny, I've never seen. I could be wrong. Again, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I don't remember Hezbollah, killing UN personnel and then saying, "Oops, we didn't know you were there." This is ridiculous. The Israelis have advanced technology. They like to say they have one of the best armies in the world, and they can't even target properly. You're telling me they don't know the UN is there? Of course you fucking know the UN's been there for decades. Because you keep invading Lebanon. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. My point was that if you know two things about the Lebanese, the war in 2006, is that the Israelis, they bombed civilian infrastructure and they got their asses kicked because they were not ready for what they were not prepared and had no idea what was coming. So the proof is in the pudding, man. They haven't done a thing since 2006. And the fact that they hit a bunch of banana fields, I mean, I'm dying, man. I'm dying, really. When I heard that, man, they bombed banana groves. Banana groves. That's all they're gonna touch, man. Banana groves. You haven't not got the balls to fuck with Hezbollah, man, because you're not prepared to face the consequences like you did in 2006. You got your ass whooped and you walked away. So keep walking away and don't make empty threats. Really, man, this is banana groves. I'm dead, man. Really, this is something else. This is something really. In any case, you know, I gave you most of the points from his speech. You know, he's basically what can I say? Great minds think alike. No, seriously. Some of the points that I made to you and I raised last week when talking about the new reality, right? The new reality in the Middle East. He also raised. So again, I know it warrants it certainly warrants repeating, but the situation in the Middle East is very different now. And you know, the United States. Think of the United States foreign policy now. We all know that the United States, they give $3.8 billion to the Israelis, and next time when they renew it, what is it, in 2026, they'll make it even higher. Yeah, we know that. But right now, what is the United States doing? What are their main foreign policy objectives? They are busy with Ukraine. Yes, they've given more money to Ukraine this year than Israel, which has never happened before, right? That another country receives more military aid than Israel. So, I mean, just from, quantifiably, you can literally quantify that in dollars. The United States cares more about Ukraine right now. They are more focused on Ukraine right now because they're waging a proxy war against Russia. I would also be more focused and worried about that were I in their shoes. So that's number one, Ukraine, Russia. Number two, Taiwan and China. They're already cooking up and stirring up crap and getting you ready and getting the masses ready to hate China when the time comes to strike China. And they're already getting the Australians into, military alliances with, AUKUS. So that's, as the name implies, Australia, UK, US, giving them, transferring not nuclear weapons, so not that technology, but certainly the nuclear powered submarines, which is still a transfer and a very serious transfer of technology to the Australians. Not because, they love, because they love Aussies, but because they want to make sure that their unsinkable aircraft carrier, aka Australia, is ready when it's go time. Yes? So the United States is busy with Russia and busy with China. Israel is not on the top of their list. And the Israelis are starting to see that, right? I'm sure they are because, Trump, he certainly did a lot for them, and Biden is a proud Zionist. But still, you can't change the reality of these two facts. The United States is more preoccupied. So the United States has opened up on itself multiple fronts. They can't afford, even if they wanted to, I suppose, to care that much about supporting Israel. And yes, William Burns, he scrambled off to Saudi Arabia to complain about the peace process that right now, the rapprochement between Syria and Yemen and Saudi Arabia and so on. Yeah, but they're not going to do much else, are they? I could be wrong, but, the U.S. certainly seems preoccupied. The reality's changed. This is undeniable, and especially in this last week. So the unified response from Syria, South Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Hamas against Israel's beating of worshippers in Al-Aqsa, the coordinated rocket fire, Iran and Saudi Arabia growing closer, right? The rapprochement, resuming ties. The rapprochement between Saudi and Syria and Saudi and Yemen. The United States being busy with Ukraine and Russia and with China and Taiwan. And of course, as I said, unified factions within the West Bank and with Hamas. It was much easier to see the divisions a couple of decades ago. Right now, you'd be hard pressed. And Netanyahu's dealing with all these internal protests. I mean, there was a trend towards normalization with Israel, right? Bahrain and the UAE normalized ties with Israel. And I told you myself, Saudi Arabia is next, and that was true. Saudi was going to be next, or one of the next, to establish ties with Israel. But that trend, after these fake Abraham Accords, is gone. Now the trend is going in the opposite direction. It's the opposite. Instead of Saudi looking towards Israel, Saudi is looking towards Syria, Iran, Yemen. And trust me, the rest of the Middle East and the world will follow suit, right? Because the peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia has created the political landscape where things like this are possible. And the other situations and factors which I mentioned have contributed towards that. So once again, we are entering a new phase here. There's a new reality, a new political reality in the Middle East, and it's unfolding right before your eyes. What also goes without saying is that none of this is good for Israel. And all of this is good for Syria, it's good for Yemen, it's good for the entire Middle East, and it's good for Iran, and it's good for diplomacy. And I like to contrast this with what's happening in Ukraine, where there's war, not even a prayer of any sort of peace talks or diplomatic endeavors right now, unfortunately. But in the Middle East, we are seeing diplomacy, and we are seeing progress, and that is very good. And we are seeing the resistance axis progress and become stronger than ever before. So these are things that I said to you a couple of days ago, and Nasrallah obviously went and stole my YouTube video and turned it into a speech. I'm kidding. But you can't deny the new reality. It's as clear as day